fantastic emoji stories. Nate Diaz and Jason Aldean's redemption, mysteries of the time-traveling Barbie mansion.
Nate Diaz, wearing sunglasses to shield from the California sun, stood before a massive iron gate. The vine-clad stones of the mansion lay hidden behind rows of tall, ancient trees. A raven croaked somewhere in the distance, adding to the uncanny stillness. The mansion had come to him as a surprising inheritance from a relative he'd never met. His lawyer had simply handed him the keys and an old, wax-sealed letter that said, "For the soul seeking a way back." As he entered the house, a musty scent filled his nostrils, reminiscent of old books and forgotten memories. Faded portraits of his ancestors watched him with solemn eyes as he wandered from room to room. Grand chandeliers hung from the ceilings, bearing witness to a time of opulence. In the west wing, he found a door with a peculiar emblem, a timepiece with a heart at its center. The door was ajar. Inside, the room was a Pandora's box of the past, an old gramophone, stacks of dusty books, and antique furniture. However, a glass cabinet in the room's center captured his attention. Inside the cabinet, nestled on a purple velvet cushion, was a vintage Barbie doll. Its paint was chipped, and its clothes, though once vibrant, were now faded. But there was an undeniable allure to it. Almost in a trance, Nate reached out and lifted the doll from its resting place. A sudden rush of air, a blinding light, and Nate found himself in a dimly lit room, the strumming of a guitar in the background. Blinking, he realized he was no longer in the mansion but a rustic bar, with a young musician named Jason Aldean cautiously taking the stage. The wooden floorboards creaked under Nate's weight, the dim lighting casting long shadows. Neon signs buzzed, and murmurs filled the air, but all was drowned by the poignant chords being strummed on stage. There, a younger Jason Aldean stood, eyes closed, lost in his own world. But Nate sensed an air of desolation around the musician. Each note played seemed to carry a weight of dreams deferred. Intrigued, Nate took a seat at the bar, ordering a whiskey. The bartender, an older man with a thick beard, shot him a curious look. "Haven't seen you here before. Here for Aldean?" When Nate nodded, the bartender continued, "Poor kid's got talent, but he's been having a rough time. Doesn't believe in himself much anymore." As Jason finished his set, the applause was polite, yet sparse. Nate watched as the musician's shoulders slumped, disappointment evident. Feeling an inexplicable connection, he approached Jason, offering to buy him a drink. Over shared stories and laughs, the two bonded, talking late into the night. Nate felt compelled to share tales from his MMA days, stories of defeats, pain, and eventual victories. As he talked about the resilience required to get back up after each fall, Jason's eyes sparkled with a mix of inspiration and melancholy. "You ever think about giving up?" Jason asked, fidgeting with the guitar pick in his hand. "All the time," Nate confessed. "But there's always a fire inside, pushing me forward." Jason looked distant for a moment. "I've been on the brink," he admitted. "Feels like my dreams are slipping through my fingers." The two found solace in each other's company, both understanding the weight of ambition and the pain of dreams seemingly just out of reach. As the night wore on, Nate could see a flicker of determination returning to Jason's eyes, a determination that Nate recognized from his own struggles. It was only when Nate excused himself to the restroom that he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror, a younger version. Disoriented, he stumbled back into the bar, only to find it empty and Jason gone. Panicking, he clutched the Barbie doll in his pocket, and as suddenly as he'd been transported, he was back in the mansion's room, the weight of the experience heavy on his chest. Back in the dim confines of the mansion's mysterious room, Nate, still reeling from his temporal jaunt, felt the urge to explore the power of the Barbie doll once more. Each touch seemed to weave a narrative thread, taking him to different corners of time. There was the ballroom dancer in Paris during the 1920s, a soldier bidding farewell to his lover during World War II, and an ambitious actress auditioning for her first big role in 1970s Hollywood. But the story that called to Nate the most was Jason's. Every so often, he would find himself back in the young musician's world. Each visit portrayed a different moment in Jason's journey, his first major gig, a heartbreak that led to a soulful ballad, and moments of doubt on the eve of his breakout album. With each return, the lines between observer and participant blurred for Nate. He became Jason's silent muse, his pillar, guiding him through challenges. Their bond grew, yet it was unspoken, founded on shared dreams and vulnerabilities. However, as the visits continued, a pattern emerged. Nate started encountering moments of his own past. He was back in the cage, feeling the same adrenaline rush before a significant fight. He relived the anguish of his first major defeat and the joy of his subsequent victories. It wasn't just Jason's past he was navigating but his own. In one particularly jarring encounter, He found himself back in his teenage years, confronting the raw pain of a strained relationship with his father. They were in the family garage, amidst a heated argument. Nate watched as his younger self yelled and stormed out, a scene he had pushed to the back of his mind but now played out before him with painful clarity. The emotional roller coaster was taking its toll. The mansion, once a haven from the world, now felt like a prison of memories. The distinction between past and present, reality and illusion, began to fade, leaving Nate at the mercy of the Barbie doll's unpredictable whims. Each journey felt like it pulled a little more of his essence, leaving him drained and fragmented. Determined to find a way to regain control and understand the purpose behind these temporal travels, Nate decided to dive deep into the journals and artifacts left behind in the mysterious room, hoping to uncover the origin and purpose of the time-traveling Barbie doll. Amidst the parched pages and old ink of the journals in the room, Nate discovered the memoirs of a woman named Isabel. She was a brilliant scientist and time theorist, believed to have been his ancestor. Her lifelong pursuit was to bridge the gap between memories and the present, driven by her own regrets and the desire to rectify past mistakes. Isabel had poured her findings into the creation of the Barbie doll, embedding it with the power to navigate the river of time. But she'd realized, with growing dismay, that the past, while accessible, was immutable. You couldn't change events, only experience them. The diary ended with a solemn warning: to dwell in the past is to lose oneself. Find your anchor, or risk being lost in time's vast ocean. Realizing the danger he was in, Nate knew he needed to sever his connection with the doll. But before doing so, he felt a powerful urge to revisit one last memory, the night he had inspired a dejected Jason Aldean in that rustic bar. As the scene played out once more, he observed their interaction from a distance. He saw the desperation in the young musician's eyes, the weight of broken dreams, and his own role in reigniting Jason's passion for music. With newfound determination, Nate decided it was time to part ways with the doll and the weight of the past it carried. But how? The answer came from an unexpected source. Hidden within Isabel's notes, Nate found a ritual meant to return the echoes of the past to the silence from whence they came. Using ingredients from around the mansion, he formed a circle around the doll and began to recite the incantation. As he did, the room shimmered, and he felt a powerful pull. The walls of the mansion seemed to breathe, exhaling stories of generations, before everything settled back into a quiet stillness. When it was over, the Barbie doll looked just like any other old toy, its magical aura gone. Nate felt a burden lift from his shoulders. The ties to past memories, while not forgotten, no longer had a hold on him. Months later, he attended one of Jason Aldean's concerts. The energy was palpable, and when Jason played a particularly heartfelt ballad, Nate felt a connection, a resonance. Their eyes met for just a fleeting second. There was a shared understanding, an unspoken acknowledgement of the intertwining of their fates, even if only Nate truly knew the depth of their bond. As the music soared, Nate realized that while we can't change the past, we can let its echoes guide and shape us, resonating in harmony with the present.